to the comic shop. I'll let you read about Cyclops. I'll have you spending all you got. Cyberfrog is looking hot. Uncle E.
Yo, 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 yo. Big Legit back here once again to talk to you about some more awesome comics from the 20th century. And what I'm going to talk about today is probably my most favorite comic book from Image back in the 90s. It's this gem, Erik Larsen's Savage Dragon. Now, the Savage Dragon was initially released as a 3-issue miniseries, which absolutely was totally awesome when I was a kid. And it's still totally awesome, and I recommend you go pick up these. I got this for $1.50, 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents at my local comic book shop in the back issue bin. And it's a great story, and I'm just gonna kind of go through it with you here a little bit because it's just, it was, you know, initially I collected, you know, Fantastic Four and Wolverine were the first two I got into, and then I got into Spider-Man by Erik Larsen because his artwork was just so dynamic and so original, and he drew women so incredibly sexily. And when you're, you know, a 12-year-old kid, nothing beats sexy women. Nothing beats sexy women when you're, you know, in your 30s too. So basically, this comic book just starts out totally awesome with Dragon in his cop uniform. He works for the Chicago Police Department, and you'll see how that evolution happens. But basically, he's getting the jump on old boy right here, Cutthroat, and you just immediately, boom, beautiful splash page. And this is how you open a comic book right. This is like the first time we're meeting the Dragon, issue 1, and you just are just opening this with just this awesome fight. It's got plenty of blood in it, which boys love to see blood. It's just something that is in our nature because we are meant to protect, and part of that means having to get cut up a little bit sometimes, or having to cut somebody else up a little bit when they're a no good criminal like Cutthroat here. And basically Dragon gives him that headbutt, rocks him, and this picture of the Dragon is so iconic. And basically, Dragon gets the drop on him and has them both arrested. He gets, you know, the applause from the people there. And then we flash back to before. See? Before. And here's Dragon just laying in the middle of this fire in a field. Frank Darling, he's a lieutenant for the Chicago Police Department, trying to figure out who Dragon is. But Dragon's an amnesiac. He knows who the President of the United States is, but he doesn't know anything else, you know? Who's the President of the United States? George Bush. You know, this was H.W., not George W. Bush, H.W. Bush, long before 9/11. And it's like he remembers everything except details about himself. And Frank is just trying to get him to join the police force because they need a buff guy to help take on the super freaks. And then we're introduced to this gentleman who is Super Patriot. And Super Patriot, unfortunately, is in critical condition. He was brought into the hospital with both arms and legs crushed beyond repair and half of his face missing. Doctors say that if he lives, he'll never walk again. Super Patriot had been fighting crime since the 1940s, and Frank just cannot believe that this has happened. And so Frank continues to try to get Dragon to come work for him, and he actually gets him a job at his brother's place of work. But of course, you know, the criminals, they show up to shake down the brother for some money because that's what criminals do. And Dragon, he doesn't care. He just makes light work out of all of them, including old Skullface here. And, you know, Fred, he's just upset that everything's been damaged. And, you know, what's it look like I'm doing, you big idiot? I'm getting the hell out of here. I spent a lifetime building this business, and in 1 minute, you've destroyed it. All they wanted was money. Now they want my life, and it's all your damn fault. And this is an intimidation factor, essentially, that criminals will use. You see this with MS-13, where they intimidate you. You see this with the old Italian gangs, where they would intimidate you into just giving up some money. If you give up some money, will protect you, but really they're just protecting you from themselves. And it's a terrible racket, and poor defenseless Fred here, he doesn't have much of a choice, and he's actually begun to sympathize with the criminals And that's where they want you. That's right where they want you, you know. In fact, you can see that happening every day in America right now, where people are sympathizing with criminals, and it's abhorrent. But the dragon, he doesn't believe in all that. He'll protect Fred. He swears it. Oh, look at this. It's a nice one that the kids can take out and hang on the wall, show their love for the dragon. Badoom! Uh-oh, what happened here, you know? This kind of confused me. I had to flip back and make sure, and we don't actually see what happened. It's just an explosion out of nowhere. And there's dragon burnt, and so I was a little confused when I read this because I didn't know if we're going back to before and he just forgot to say before, because we just saw a dragon in a fire. No, they blew up Fred's warehouse. Fred is dead. Dragon lived because he's a stud. Now here we have Mighty Man. I don't want you to get confused. See, Mighty Man is not Super Patriot. Where's Super Patriot? I want to make sure you see the difference here, kids. When you go to read this comic book, I want you to know this is Super Patriot in his classic 1940 superhero outfit. This is Mighty Man. Super Patriot, Mighty Man. There's a difference, and Mighty Man actually becomes a great character. It's very unique. Perhaps the first transgender character, kind of, in comic book history. Kind of, before we really knew what that meant. So basically, you know, Mighty Man dies. Robert Berman dies in the hospital with a nurse holding his hand. He was able to magically transform himself into the world's mightiest man. But Robert Berman is an old man, and he's passed away now. He was 67 years old, and he'll be missed. So basically, you know, Frank's watching the TV, and Dragon shows up. He lets him in, and he decides that he's going to join the force here. I've got nothing else to do. Count me in. So then we have Alex, who is a chick cop, who also a very sexy chick cop. She doesn't look as sexy in this as she will in future issues. But Dragon shows up and makes the save, because that's what the dragon does. Another iconic shot of the dragon. And look how he overlaps into this panel here. This is the very dynamic style that Image, I feel, really brought this into the mainstream, where you would see little things like this occasionally in a Marvel comic book, but it would only be maybe 1 page or 2 pages. And Image just totally changed the way that you draw a comic book and made it even more dynamic than it is before. And that's my favorite keyword, my favorite AOL keyword to describe Image Comics is dynamic. It changed the industry forever, because Image Comics did what? They moved the needle. They got together, Todd and Jim and Rob and Wills Portasio and Mark Silvestri. All these guys got together and they moved the needle. And Savage Dragon did that for me big time. I collected Savage Dragon for 2 solid years, and it was great. So Dragon basically just jumps into the air, drops down through the roof, because he's not messing around. I love this guy with the hairy back. Very much like, is that Ox Baker? I think that is. All these wrestling fans know that's Ox Baker making a cameo. So Dragon just makes light work. Thok, 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 thok. Thack, thack, thack. And I love his words. I love, what do we call, I don't know what these are even called, actually, these sounds. Erik Larsen makes the best sounds for things to make. Die, die, die. And so they get shot right in the eye. And it doesn't stop him. He is such a G. Drop it, freak. See this Nazi here. He's going to kill this beautiful girl, very attractive woman. And he's not going to deal with that. The dragon doesn't care. He just, blast the dude in the arm. You think that that's what's happening. You think thok, 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 because we had thok, 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 thok here. But this thok, 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 thok turns out to not be that. He's got these stars from Star, who is another totally awesome character that appeared here in these first few issues of the Savage Dragon and in Freak Force. If you don't know Freak Force, check that one out too. It's a spin-off of Savage Dragon. We'll get into that later. So basically you have Erik Larsen introducing all these characters, and then here he introduces some more of the main villains. This is Hellraiser. This is, this isn't Cyberface. I'm not sure who this is. This is the Overlord, who is the main bad guy when Savage Dragon first came around. And basically just leaves it there. We have plenty of writing we'll see later on in these issues. And let me just go ahead and get through it. The Protectors, this is the next big thing from Malibu Comics. And it's Magneto with an eye on his chest, and Juggernaut not as buff and without the chin part of his hood. And it's metal, but now it's not metal, I guess. And this is Aquaman in a mask, and I don't know, maybe Kitty Pryde with a larger chest and a mask. And this is, maybe that's like, I don't know, Dagger from Cloak and Dagger. I don't really know, in a mask. And I don't know if this is the next big thing. I don't remember this, so I don't think that it was the next big thing. But that's okay, because Malibu really helped Image in those formative years. And so then, instantly it's just like, I got to get Savage Dragon #2. But that's not happening for a few months. And, they were notoriously late with their books over there. But that's okay, because it was worth the wait. It was totally worth the wait. And here comes Super Patriot. We saw him previously, and all of a sudden now he's got totally, cybernetic arms and legs. Because remember, in that first issue, his arms and legs were crushed, and he was basically dead. But they turned him into, like a RoboCop type of thing here, which is pretty cool. I love the look. I love the mask. I love it all. And what I love is you open this up and you just get this great page. This is the police. Put your hands up where I can see them. And you're like, ooh, what's going on? We've really just like jumped from the end of this into a whole new plot. And that's what I actually find really cool about Erik's writing, is he's not afraid to skip ahead to a new event. There's very little downtime in the Savage Dragon back then. I don't know about now, because, as I've said previously, I've never bought a comic that was made in the 21st century. I only collect comics from the 20th century. And this I absolutely love. This is Arachnid. And Arachnid is... Erik Larsen has this way of creating these incredibly cool-looking villains. And they look so serious, and they deserve, like there could be 4 issues, 6 issues about Arachnid. Now he's stealing these kids and eating them. It's kind of got, it's almost like It. If you know that, the Stephen King's It, right? This is kind of It, but Arachnid. Big fat guy with multiple arms who's pretty awesome. He shoots webs like, another guy who Erik Larsen has drawn in the past, who I loved. And that's why I bought the Savage Dragon, is because of Erik's work on Spider-Man for Marvel. Before this, I was such a huge fan. And so I instantly gravitated towards the Savage Dragon. And the dragon just looks really cool with the fin on his head. Old Finhead is great. So what's even more awesome is he makes light work of Arachnid, who looks like one of the most imposing supervillains of all time. But Dragon doesn't care. He electrifies him. Zap. Oh no, it's a Frazak. Frazak. It's pretty fun. And this one is Scracker Doom. I don't know, Scracker Doom? Scracker Room? Scracker Room. Okay, we'll go Scracker Room. That's fun. So basically, he carries this big sow belly out of there. And he meets Anne, who's the nurse who was holding Mighty Man's hand when Mighty Man passed away at the ripe old age of 67. Frank, he's just upset because he doesn't know what to do anymore. The heat's coming down on him, and we'll get into that here a little bit. Super Patriot. Look at that iconic imagery that Erik Larsen draws again. Now he meets Debbie. Debbie Harris is the girl that lives next door to Savage Dragon. He just moves into this new apartment and meets this hot little blonde. And, but he doesn't give her the time of day because, he's an alpha male. He's a real stud, and he knows that makes her want him more. Then he shows up on this bike, and this very much reminds me of Arnold in, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. This is very much it. I like the red glasses that he wears. I'm very cool. He stole those from Arn Anderson, AA, Four Horsemen. Everybody out there know the Four Horsemen, right? I think those are Arn's glasses right there. I'm not positive. And Rose Fua is one of the news reporters. And I love that Image did news reporting. Todd did this too quite frequently in his comics in Spawn. And I was a fan of this. I thought that was a really, really neat little way to, a little plot device that can really propel things forward in a timely fashion that doesn't take up a whole page. Like today, you would see a modern comic book today, this would be like two pages of just people sitting at a table talking. And Erik just puts it all right here in this little sidebar and lets us get right into some amazing, intense action with, you know, big, creepy-looking villains, either, you know, sadomasochistic villains or big buff villains or shark head villains. Hot chicks, again, Erik Larsen draws very attractive women. Very impressed by that always. And of course, you know, the dragon shows up because the dragon's not messing around. And I think, look at that. This is one of my favorite drawings of the Savage Dragon. I actually had this on my wall when I was a kid. And you'll notice Spawn rules. And there's Rob Liefeld and Brigade and Steve-O. But this is before Jackass, so this is a different Steve-O. Youngblood. There's Liefeld again. McFarlane. Robbie. You know, Wildcats is in here somewhere. There's a lot of depth in that. Anyway. Yeah, you know, I did own this comic. I own both versions, the Savage Dragon versus the Savage Megaton Man. And one had like gold logo, I guess, and it was, I don't know why this was even done. It was stupid, actually. It was kind of neat because Don Simpson and Erik Larsen each drew their own characters, and it might be the first time I've ever seen like two different comic book styles like on the same page. That's kind of weird, like very, very innovative. I don't know if it's been done before or if this was the first, but that's what kind of made it unique. It's just it was a non-issue, like non-story, just one-shot thing they did. I don't know why. I'd be curious to know. If I would assume that, you know, Savage Dragon, I believe his first appearance was actually in Megaton Comics. And so maybe that's why this was done. I don't know. But anyways, back to the dragon in color over here. You know, oh boy lifts up a little kid. You wouldn't hurt me, Mr. Dragon. And Dragon is just like, uh-oh, there's a kid. Dragon doesn't give a crap. He just flips over the kid, grabs old boy by the face, and just slams him down into the ground. Does not give a crap. But you know, Dragon's got trouble because there's 3 against 1 here, and there's a lot of action going on here. Give it up, punk. And Dragon's getting the crap kicked out of him, and that's another thing I really like about the Savage Dragon is he takes a licking and he keeps on ticking. It doesn't matter how much blood is profusely pouring out of him. He's still standing. And then all of a sudden Super Patriot comes in and, you know, turns his hands into guns, and nobody's leaving, and he just starts shooting people, and Dragon's just like, stop, you're killing them. You're murdering them in cold blood. Don't do this. And they have this big fight, and he gets electrocuted, and Super Patriot is going to just, you know, blast the hell out of Savage Dragon's face. And then Alex shows up. You freeze, sucker! Freeze! I don't know if I read that really in her voice. That's not fair. Not until justice has been served. Don't shoot, you idiot. He's a police officer. And Super Patriot just doesn't know what's happened. Like, he doesn't know what to do. And, you know, Dragon, you know, throws him away and then collapses, you know. Oh, man, so much blood. So much blood. Oh, God, no. And this is where it leaves you hanging. Issue 2 leaves you hanging with the Dragon dead and beaten to a pulp. Everyone is dead. Dragon is dead. Alex is just flabbergasted by what's happened here. And we get here. And this is, you know, the Savage Dragon letters that fans send in. And this is one of the things that really makes Erik Larsen so awesome, is that he would just printed everybody's art, printed everybody's letters, really, really showed love to his fans back here in the 90s. I don't know if he still does this much in Savage Dragon. I haven't read Savage Dragon in, you know, 20 years. But I always thought it was super cool that he would just print so many letters and people's art, and, you know, like, Wyatt's art isn't the best, but, you know, Erik really appreciated it, and I think that's really cool. And then you get to, of course, the third Rockin' issue featuring Bedrock. See, now we can talk about Bedrock for a second. This is who you know as Badrock from Youngblood. When that first year image was out, his name was Bedrock, and well, apparently, you know, Hanna-Barbera, the Flintstones, had an issue with that, and so it was changed to Badrock instead of Bedrock. And again, Erik just opens it up with, like, we're in the middle of some action. We just jump right into that action, which is a great plot device. To just go right into it, you know, make the audience catch up to what's going on, and that's certainly what we are forced to do Oh, two-toed dragon, you know. Okay, so he's not human, I guess? We're going to find out at some point in the future, I'm sure. Here we got another Scrack-a-boosh. Up here we had a Scrack-a-cack, but down here we got a Scrack-a-boosh. So we get this awesome fight here, and it's in a hospital. Like, he's still wearing the apron. You can almost see his tushy there. And Dragon's not messing around. Alex is becoming more of a character. And Dragon's been out of it since he got whooped up on. He's been out of it, and for like a week, and now he's back. 9 days total. But he's got a mutant healing factor like my boy Logan. So he ends up being okay. And here we go. This kind of reminds me of an image of Strife that we saw earlier in a video for New Mutants number 87. The first appearance of Cable. This is Overlord in full. We finally get to like really see who this dude is. And he is the leader of the gangs in Chicago. He's taken over all the gangs and nobody's messing with him. And later we'll find out the origin of this character. I was absolutely mesmerized by this guy, the same way I was mesmerized by Strife. Overlord, he hashtag moved the needle for me back when I was a kid, big time. Same way the Dragon did it. And then, you know, Amanda Mills is like this hot chick who's trying to get with the Dragon too. So he's got Debbie and he's got Amanda. And she's like, you saved my life. I was so frightened that I'd never get to talk to you again. And then Anne comes in and, you know, breaks the budding romance there. But Dragon, you know, as an alpha male, he's doing his own thing. He doesn't care, which makes Amanda want him more. He puts on his stunner shades and he takes off to go do some more work. The press is, you know, ready to ask him all sorts of questions here. And Dragon's just not having even this one where she's like, please, can I please ask? And he's just like, no, I don't care. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Bedrock shows up and just sucker punches him. And they have this epic fight that just goes on. And oh, Image Comics number 0. So basically you get, you know, you take out all of these pieces of paper in all these issues and you could send them all in together and you would get Image Comics number 0. Which has actually a very important thing in it relating to the Savage Dragon that we'll talk about in a minute. But anyways, and we get another awesome poster. This is another Erik Larsen piece of art here. Isn't that lovely to hang on the walls for the kids? Keep going, and like, you know, even Spawn shows up in this one, and these kids are just like, I saw him first, and Spawn's just like, how do you know I'm a hero? And I'm in my disguise, my homeless guy disguise. And the kids just push past him to watch the Savage Dragon on TV, which is really cool. Like, you know, you don't really see this at department stores anymore, where they would have all the TVs set out in a window so you could see all the different TVs and pick the one you want without even having to come in. You could just do what we called window shopping. Window shopping. So Spawn, he's just like, okay, well, whatever. So he just makes this little appearance. He doesn't even get involved in the action. He's not even there to see the action. This is, you know, totally different city, totally different state. And Bedrock, he's just getting madder and madder. He's ready for a big fight, and they just keep fighting each other. It's a really great fight, really great fight. It goes underwater. Check this comic out. It's super good. And then out of nowhere, and then, you know, this old lady is watching on TV, and she thinks that the dragon is her son, Rodney. My boy Rodney ran away from home. Rodney's a thug. Savage Dragon, spoiler alert, he's not Rodney. Okay, that's enough. Stop, okay? Knock it off, you dork. Jeez. And out of nowhere, like, you know, Bedrock, he just wants to stop fighting because he just wanted to see if you were tough enough to join Youngblood. How about that? Got in that big fight, all this property damage, just to find out if he's tough. Well, guess what? He is tough, punk. And he just cold clocks him. I love this shot. What a great splash page, huh? Erik does this great art that I just have always been enamored with. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Oh, it happens in Marvel Comics all the time. Oh, man, there it is. Another little dig. These guys, they were trouble back then. So basically, you know, Dragon's like, hell no, you're under arrest. He arrests Bedrock for starting this fight. Goes back to his apartment, and there's Debbie, and it's like her mom has locked her out of the apartment. And so, you know, Dragon, you know, takes her hand and leads her into his apartment. Can I just stay on your couch, please? Would that be all right if I sleep on your couch? Yeah, right, like that's going to happen. So then we've got Youngblood shows up. They bail Bedrock out of jail. In the middle of the night, Frank gets a phone call. And it's the bad guys shaking him down. And then, so check it out. It seems that tip about your cousin Fred's warehouse being ripe for plucking came from you. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Green Man didn't want to be a cop, so you made a phone call. Bad guys threatened Fred. Green Man sent them to jail. Warehouse exploded. Freddy's dead. Dragon's a cop. Happy ending, eh, Frankie? What do you want? Sleep well, Frankie. Sleep well. I'm sorry, I have to do the Skeletor voice because Skullface has a Skeletor face. So, you know, obviously the Overlord loves this because now he has his hooks into Frank, and Frank does not know what to do, as you can clearly see. And that's where this one ends. And again, Erik, you know, answers lots of Q&A from my boy Erik Larsen here. And this is Black Cat, believe it or not. This is the Black Cat from Lauren Harvey Publications. Not really sure, but 10th big issue on sale now. So basically, what I'm going to tell you right now is that you want to go buy these, but while you're out looking for these in the back issue bins at your local comic shop, you're going to also want to find a comic called The Dragon. See, what they did was they reprinted, if I'm not mistaken, they reprinted some of these Dragon stories like 3 years later. And one of them that they reprinted was The Dragon issue number 5. It was a miniseries 1 through 5, and you just want to focus on issue number 5. Because in The Dragon number 5, they reprint a story from Image number 0. Remember this? Image number 0? And what's neat is that in Image Comics number 0, Debbie, the hot blonde who's staying with the dragon here, the hot blonde chick, she gets capped right in the dome. Right there. Killed, murdered in Dragon's apartment. And that really is something that the second, volume 2, I guess you would call it, the first issue of the ongoing series, The Savage Dragon, is really Dragon having to deal with like the death of his girlfriend and how everyone close to him dies. And that was shocking because you didn't see that. I mean, you know what? Gwen Stacy got killed and, you know, dropped to her death or whatever it was. But Debbie took a bullet right in the friggin' dome. And you just didn't see that in comics. And so as a kid, that's like kind of shocking, but it's also like, whoa, these comics are super cool. Like I've said, Image Comics is the Quentin Tarantino of comic book companies back then in that day and age. So go out right now to your local comic shop and buy this mini-series 1, 2, and 3. I guarantee you're going to be hooked and you're going to want to read more Savage Dragon. I collected it up until about issue 25, at which point, you know, like, I was getting close to getting a car, and when you have a car, you stop caring about comic books for quite a while. Not everyone, of course, you know, no shame. Just that was my experience. So these comics, when I was a kid, if there was anything that would hashtag move the needle for me, this was it, brother. This was it. And Savage Dragon's still around, you know, and I know he doesn't sell, you know, tens of thousands of copies anymore. But, you know, maybe I'll have to check one out sometime and see what happened with my old buddy, the Dragon. What was your favorite Image comic? What was it that got you totally hooked on Image other than their incredible ability to market and the fact that it was just such an exciting time to be a comic book fan? This did it for me. Put it in the comments below. Your favorite Image comic that got you hooked on the eye. Please like, please subscribe. I look forward to talking about another comic book with you in the next video.